Today I'm going to show you guys how to plumb a reef tank. What's going on, guys? Devin with Reef Dude. So I just picked up a bunch of plumbing parts and I'm going to plumb the new tank, so I figured I'd bring you guys along for the ride. Now on this we're going to do what's called a bean animal style drain. And I love this drain because it has lots of extra redundancy in it. So you got multiple drain pipes, you got an emergency, so there's lots of fail-safes built in. Always double redundancy. So I just picked up a bunch of plumbing parts. We got some 1-inch bulkheads, some 1-inch unions, some 3/4 bulkheads, 3/4 unions, a bunch of 3/4 90s, 2 1-inch 45s. We got our PVC ABS glue and primer. And I went with clear because I'm going to be using red piping and don't want any of that purple or the other colors on it. So red will look good, keep it nice and clean. I also picked up a lock nut, slip and lock nut wrench. Basically it's great for tightening up and snugging up bulkheads. This is only about 10 bucks, so make life easier. And just a couple things to attach our return pipe hose. So let's get to it and let's plumb this tank. Before I install anything, I always like to give it a good wipe down first. Make sure there's no dust or grit or particles in there. Now we're installing the bulkhead. You got this little flange on it. This is going to go on the inside of the tank. And just poke that through the hole. And just going to hand tighten the nut on the back. Now for the most part, you can just hand tighten these. Poke it through and snug it up. Now it is 100% possible to over tighten these, so you got to be very careful when you're doing this. You could potentially crack the glass or the fitting, so you want to do just a small snug in this. Nothing too tight, nothing too crazy. Yeah, when I'm doing this, it's still very easy to turn, so you do not over tighten these. Just feel a bit of resistance, you're good. So we have our 3 drains coming down. One of the drains is going to be a full siphon. And the one that's a full siphon is going to be what goes into my Clarity filter roller. Now on that one, we're going to put on what's called a gate valve. And the purpose of this is so we can adjust the flow. The secondary drain is going to be just a trickle pipe. So water is going to just trickle into that one. And how we do that is we close up this drain until the water level rises just enough to go over that trickle. And the third drain is going to be emergency. So it's never really going to get used unless the water level raises too high, and then we'll use that third emergency drain. Now one trick to keeping your drains silent is to let them outflow just below the water line. So you want to do it about 1 inch below the water line. If you go too deep, the bubbles are going to have to work harder to work their way out, and it could actually be louder. So if I look at my next baffle over, it's just about 9 inches. So I'm going to have my drains drop to around 7.5 to 8 inches. So it gives us kind of an idea of where to figure out how deep to put our drains. So on our drains up here, we're going to use a union on each drain. And the purpose of a union is just so you can make it easy to disconnect it. If I glued this all up and I had to move the tank, it'd be impossible to do with all these pipes here. You'd have to cut it. So using a union, we can unscrew it and detach that pipe and move if we have to. So generally I put those kind of just a little bit down. So we'll cut a little couple-inch chunk of pipe for each one of these, and we'll get these unions installed. So we'll keep these fairly tight. We'll do about a 3 to 3.5 inch chunk of pipe. So sometimes you will get a little bit of an edge on there. I usually just like to give it a quick little wipe with sandpaper just to make sure there's no lip. When you actually go into a PVC fitting, it's kind of convex, like it slowly narrows inwards. So it will kind of almost push it out. So just by making sure you get rid of that little lip, it'll just help it create a better seal. We're going to start out by gluing these fittings. First we're going to use a primer. The purpose of a primer is to kind of soften the plastic and get ready to bond. So I just learned, do not use it on ABS fittings. So I guess we're not going to use this on the bulkhead. But we'll use it on the bottom. A quick swish around each one. This is going to soften up the PVC. And I guess do a little swish on the pipe. This stuff fuses quick, so you got to make sure when you put your stuff in, you're pretty darn precise. Now, with the clear, you don't see any glue spill over, which is a huge plus in my eyes, especially when you're using fancy color pipe. Just use a little paper towel to wipe off any little bits of excess. And we're left with a mighty fine glue joint. Alright, now we're going to glue our bulkhead fittings. So nice generous surrounding on it. And push this into the female end of the pipe. So the next chunk is going to come down to our gate valve. And I want this one to sit pretty tight to the tank. I'll go 7 1/4 to be safe. Alright, so we got her about 7 1/4. Give it a dry fit test. Now before I glue this, I just want to figure out the right size pipe to connect with the Clarity. Another quick note is when I'm cutting these pipes, it's also a good idea to give them a rinse. I had to do that off camera, but I just want to throw that one out there for you guys. Get our drain pipes in. Now I know I'm going to be running an MP40 on both sides of the tank, so I got to figure out approximately where this is going to mount. I do want it fairly high up just to prevent sand dunes, and the plumbing does have to extrude past this, so I'm just going to kind of half mount this for now so we can figure out the placement. So now because I'm on the top end of the kind of spec range for this, I'm going to be using probably a little bit of hot glue on the edge of this just to kind of secure it. The gasket on there is actually fairly sticky, so it does kind of hold itself, but just in case. It's sticky enough to hold something in place, yet you can still break the seal fairly easy if you need to pop it off. Now in efforts to make sure everything lines up perfectly, we are using a laser level, so I can make sure both MP40s match. Cause it makes me happy. Right about there. Now we have our MP40s installed, we can figure out how much room we got to work with for our piping. So I'm gonna get that into the bulkhead, and then I'm gonna put a 90 and drop that straight down in the middle here. So if we do it somewhere around here, we should be safe. So this part is probably pretty overkill, but I'm trying to use a laser right now to line up approximately where all the pipes should go. Mainly just because I want them to be more or less straight up and down. So because these are threaded, we want to use Teflon tape. So any type of threaded connection, always use this. This is gonna help seal the connection and fill those little gaps. Teflon tape is this kind of white softish tape. Usually I pull a bit out, tear it off so I have a nice fresh start. And you want to spin it with the threads. So look where the threads start and go downwards and spin it with it. That way when you tighten it, it's going to tighten itself and wrap around it rather than loosen itself as you attach it. Add our glue. When you add your glue, make sure you do a full circle, get all the way around it. Drip off. Beautiful. All I gotta do is add our soft pipes and attach these up here, and we're done. I did also pick up some hangers. They're basically plastic U-shaped type, so I'm gonna pop a couple screws in, and that's just gonna make sure the plumbing is secured to the top rather than hanging down. So I think that will work. Now, this one should be obvious, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyways. Make sure you don't use too long of screws. These are about 3/4 inch screws, and I have 3/4 inch plywood on top. Now I also have a little bit of gap from the little hanger, so it's just kind of common sense, but don't bugger yourself up and screw too high into your glass tank. But I think this will work out well. So the only step left is to attach our silicone tubing to the top of the pump outputs. Pretty darn easy. Hopefully you guys learned something. It's really not that hard to plumb a tank. You can do it. All the parts I used, I'll list what I can find in the links below. Otherwise, got any questions, as always, ask me. If you enjoyed this, smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next update.